You become a cleaner, more efficient mover over stone by being on stone. Plastic is a fine substitute, but there's just so much more nuance on stone that plastic doesn't demand.
Hey y'all, welcome back to The Struggle. It's me, Ryan. I'm happy you're here. Hope you're having an awesome spring season wherever you are here in the world. I'm getting after it, but I'm also struggling. And this conversation here with Coach Eric Hörst, frequent contributor to The Struggle. Coach Eric Hörst, my friend, my mentor, and my navigator here on this road to journey. Of course, if you've been following along for the past year or so, he was guiding me on my road to 13A, which was an awesome, huge struggle fest and incredibly rewarding journey. And now that I've done that 13A, I am working on the road to the pyramid with Eric. I'm also working on the road to V8, so parallel roads here, parallel paths on this Road to series. The road to V8, I've had some conversations with Nate Drolet about. We'll be checking in with Nate and some others along the way on that bouldering journey. But right now with Eric, we are focusing on the road to the pyramid because it's spring season. I'm getting out, having a lot of fun, and trying to backfill some of those hard but not limit grades for me, which is essentially 12A through 12D. But that's my pyramid, right? That's just kind of like the road that I'm at right now is backfilling that. But a couple of years ago, I was trying to do the road to 12A, and I was backfilling all of my 11s. And so Coach Hörst, who, as I'm sure you all know, has been coaching climbers from amateurs to elite pro climbers for decades now, he has just such a talent for distilling down important insights and concepts to be applicable for climbers of whatever grade we're working on. So whether your journey is a pyramid or a road to 5'10", 5'11", 5'12", 13, 14, whatever it is, Eric has worked with climbers of that level. And so this conversation here is brought to you through my lens, but will be incredibly useful for you if you are in particular a route climber. And that's our focus on this pyramid conversation here. The bouldering conversation with Nate and that journey over the course of the next year here, we'll be focusing on bouldering. But this, if you are a route climber, there's going to be some absolute gold in this one for you. And as a little recap, I've only done one 12C, one 12D, and then one 13A. I've done a bunch of 12Bs and 12As, but still want to backfill on those as well. They're all still really hard for me. And as I jump into this conversation here with Eric, I'm going to give him, and of course, by extension, you all, a recap of how the spring season is going for me. And it's been a little bit of a struggle fest. I mean, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, actually. I had some like early wins and a great trip to Oregon and Smith Rock. But then, I don't know, like I'm not feeling like maybe I am where I should be. But Eric sets me straight. Eric always does a good job setting me straight. He builds me up, then he knocks me down like a good coach should. And after we recorded this interview, which was about a week ago, I've gotten out twice to the red since then. And I've got some cool stuff to report. So I will save that for the end of this conversation. I'll try to keep it chronological. So let's dive in here with Eric. And then at the tail end, I'll give you an update on my climbing this spring since Eric and I recorded this. So without further delay, let's kick it off now with this Road to the Pyramid episode here with Coach Eric Hörst. You leave for Greece tomorrow?
Yeah, we leave for the airport like at noon and then fly overnight, of course. So so this whole week's been insane. And I want to get one more workout in today, just kind of a zone 2 climbing kind of workout.
You're going to wedge in a workout before going on a climbing trip? I don't know, Coach. I don't know if
Well, tomorrow's a travel day and Saturday's a travel day. So there's 2 rest days that I'm locked up on an airplane and airports. And and I've been tapering the training the past week. So I think I'd be actually disserving myself if I didn't do a zone 2 climbing session today, just to keep the mitochondria up to snuff.
Got it.
Yeah. ATP.
Well, good. I mean, let's keep this little road to checkup here short and tight so you can get down on that tread wall. I'm grateful that you're taking the time here. Of course, you were down in the red for quite a bit of time, and you and I managed to get one climb day in out at the Torrent Falls, which was really fun. And
That was
you're off to
fun, yeah.
Colinos. Yeah, it was good. I mean, look, it's typical. It was my typical Coach Hörst climbing experience where you flashed or on-sighted everything and I 3-hung everything, it seemed like. So it was a very typical day out with you.
It's early season, so like I think both of us went out just wanting to have some fun and get some exercise and maybe size up where we were at, and we achieved all those things. So it's a win.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate you saying it's early season because I feel like I needed to hear that. The season for me, it's really interesting. Like I came off of the fall season feeling better than ever, fitter than ever, stronger than ever. Obviously, did the objective with sending the force. Then got into a really dedicated and focused training block in the wintertime and was focusing more on building up top end strength and power. So I was doing a lot of work on the system board. I was doing a lot of weightlifting and was keeping one day in usually of some of that zone 2 climbing, either doing routes, getting out to the red. Even in the wintertime, I was able to get out there on some unseasonably kind of warmer days. I even got out there on some really brutally cold days because I just like to be on rock. But mostly it was indoors doing routes or on the tread wall. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it was more kind of strength and power focused. And then I had that trip out to Smith Rock, which was awesome and had so much fun. Did a multi-pitch with Alan Watts and did a lot of really hard gym climbing with Emil Abramson and climbed my hardest boulders, indoor boulders ever. I did 2 V7s that were very, very hard and proud sends for me. So I really felt the fruits in early March of my winter training block paying off. But then I came out of that, Eric, and I was just like in a hole. I came back and I was just so overtrained, I think, and just went really hard.
You got sick at one point and your back went out at one point.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, the injuries. Yeah, I came back with I had bicep tendon issues, I think, from like bouldering so hard. I had a bit of a shoulder issue, and then I threw my back out and got sick. So yeah, it was like a perfect storm of, I think I was overtrained and my body just kind of felt it and was shutting down from going so hard. And then met up with you at Torrent and didn't feel terrible, but obviously wasn't climbing anywhere near where I was in the fall. And so I guess maybe a good place to enter into this conversation here is getting your perspective on these ups and downs that we have as climbers coming out of my best performance season ever, best fitness ever. And then just you and I climbed together just recently, and I was struggling really hard on that 12A, which I would say is very, very hard for the grade, probably the hardest 12A I've ever been on, but still I'm not anywhere near where I was in the fall. And it's kind of discouraging. Like, I don't know, I'm feeling like a little bit like, oh God, what's happening to me? But maybe that's just part of the cycle. And I'd love your perspective on that.
Yeah, for sure. So there's quite a bit here I want to unpack from what you just went over there. And I think this is great stuff for listeners of all abilities to hear us discuss, Ryan, because there's an ebb and a flow to our training and to our performance, and life is complicated. Most of us have jobs and school and family, and there's multiple balls in the air. And as much as we aspire to stick to a solid training program and have this macro scale blueprint many months or a whole season in advance, we aspire to just have things work out like clockwork. Things get in the way. Illness happens. Injury happens. There's these black swan events that pop up in our life that get in the way. And if you're a pro athlete, things are a little less complex because they are so focused on their mission. It's their job. You and I, we're recreational climbers. Even though it's our job in various ways, we're not getting paid to climb. We're still climbing for our own pleasure and self-actualization, let's say, achieving goals and experiences. And so for performance-minded folks like us, weekend warriors, it can be frustrating when things don't go as planned. I mean, I had a couple of weeks at the Red this spring, and unfortunately, the weather was quite bad most of the time. When I first got there was some snow showers and it was too cold for me to climb. And then when it warmed up, it started to get humid and rainy, and there was flooding as I was leaving the red. So it wasn't ideal, but that's kind of spring climbing at the red. It's all over the place.
Totally.
Whereas the autumn season, the weather's more reliably solid day in and day out with fewer things going on. And so I wouldn't worry about the early season. Yeah, it would have been great if weather was good and things lined up and you had some 12 plus sends already under your belt. But I wouldn't say, like, from watching you climb, you're not in terrible shape. I mean, you're moving well. You look like a veteran climber, because even though you might not have been on point on bare metal team, it is probably the hardest 12A at the red by most people's account. And so getting a bit roughed up by that is, I think, par for the course for most climbers. And one more thing, I really love that you had in recent months a lot of variety, like the Smith Rock trip. I know you didn't go there and project anything hard because it wasn't that kind of a trip. You were there for a few days. You wanted to climb some cool routes and climb with a legend, Alan Watts. That's the stuff of climbing. It's not just about sending 13A. It's going to new areas, meeting new people. And I'm going to Greece here soon. And while I would love to climb a few 513s, I'm not going to get all upset at myself if I don't, because I'm going to a place I've not been before. The first time there might be an adjustment period. And so I'm going to go there and climb for fun with my wife and friends. And if I end up by the end of the trip sending a few hard routes, that's a cherry on top. But even without, it was a good Sunday. So, and I think that's kind of how you should view what you did. You know, and the time you spent with Mill at the gym, doing some hard bouldering and absorbing some new knowledge from him, that's a double win there for you. So things don't always run a planned course, but there's still, I guess I'm a glasses half full guy, is you got to always kind of look for what the good aspects were of your climbing and training in recent months, and not get so focused on the negatives, which in your mind might be like, I haven't made any progress since last year yet. But again, if we think of this year as a calendar year with the best weather still 6-7 months away, you're just getting started. And
that's
so
really important.
I think you just need to start in your mind, what does that roadmap look like to take you to that autumn season? We had previously talked, after sending your big 13A last fall, we had talked about using a period of time to build out that pyramid, right, with those graves underneath, those foundational graves, 12A, 12B, 12C, maybe a couple of 12Ds. I think we talked about a classic like Tuna Town perhaps would be a great, right, short-term project. And as you know, I love the idea and the value of attacking some routes with a second go mentality, trying to send a route, maybe not necessarily second go, but in just a couple of goes, because you learn a lot. And I'd still like to see you do some of that kind of climbing over the next 3 to 6 months as weather allows and as your schedule allows. And I think all of that feeds back into putting you in a position that maybe by fall season, you're ready to target another 13A, or maybe even if you backfill 2 12Ds this summer, I would say maybe it's time to push on to 13B. If you don't backfill 12 plus, then maybe you want to be looking for another 13A, but try to do it much more quickly than the Force.
First of all, thank you. I think this is the audio injection of positivity and motivation that I needed, because I was kind of feeling a little sorry for myself, just like the past couple of weeks here. I haven't been out on rock, and usually when I don't get out on rock in a while, I just start to get like probably too analytical and critical of where my fitness is at, because I just haven't gone out and faffed around and had fun in a little bit. So I think hearing the words from you that you just shared, plus hopefully getting out soon, because we're coming off the heels of a spring break and flooding, and I just haven't been able to make it out there, that stoke will relight. And to your point, I do want to keep the goal. And the goal for this early part of the year here, in through probably June, July, when maybe it'll get a little bit too uncomfortable to get out many days at the red, but there's a lot of months left here to build that pyramid. And that is the goal. The goal here is kind of the two-pronged goal, the road to V8 and build the pyramid. And I'm in pyramid building season right now for the red. And that can be just more fun. To your point, like going out to Smith Rock and having fun, and it wasn't like I was projecting something hard. I was just projecting fun things. And so I've been keeping track of kind of where I'm at with the pyramid. And so I'll recap for you and the listeners just kind of what I've done so far this year. And I'm only keeping track of kind of mid 11s through into the 12s because all the warm-ups and all that we just kind of do and as part of the routine. But I've done a couple 11Bs. I've done 3 11Cs, 1 11D, 2 12As. One of them was a flash with Rochambeau, which was one of our goals, was to flash a 12A. And then I've done 1 12B, which was Jersey Connection at Roadside. And that was almost a second go. I got it third go. I actually did all the hard parts on the second go and then had a weird foot pop just kind of on the exit climbing and came off and then tied back in and fired it. And so that was a proud kind of quick send of a 12B, which I'd never done a 12B in a day, I don't think. And then I've put in a couple sessions on 2 12Cs. So one day on Belly of the Beast, and I've done one day this year on Stain, both 12Cs. Both I think can go. I've put a few sessions in on Stain in total.
Yeah.
Only
those
one. Those
routes are quite different, though. In my opinion, they're quite different.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Like all the business, it seems like on Belly of the Beast is the first couple of bolts, where on Stain it's like that red
Stain
point
kicks
crux.
in the teeth right at the anchors.
Right.
The anchors
so
kick
probably
you in the teeth.
Both good for me to work, and I think both should go down this season here. And I haven't done any time on any 12Ds yet. So I am having a lot of fun. I don't think my fitness is where I would quote unquote kind of want it to be. I think the strength and power are pretty good coming off of this bouldering block, but I probably need to build more fitness, and building the pyramid is maybe the best way to do that. So yeah, I'm curious what you think then, just hearing that recap, knowing what kind of climber I am, and you and I climbed just recently together. We've got most of April, all of May. June can still be really good. I think Midnight Surf could be a good crag for June, maybe, a little bit even into July.
Well, first of all, and also don't forget Undertow Wall, because that wall stays in the shade all day until like 4 or 5 p.m. in the summer. And the cool air tends to hang along Undertow Wall through the midday and early afternoon hours. So it can be a 75 or 80 degree day. And if the humidity is not too crazy, working a route like Tuna Town would be totally, in my opinion, a pretty good condition route to work.
Cool.
And I think that's one as a 12D that you should look into, because I don't think you would do it in a session just yet, but I think you could do it in potentially a few sessions. And that would be a big win to take off a 12D that quickly. But it's also, got fitness involved. And so I wouldn't jump onto that just yet until you've built back some of that fitness. But first of all, in terms of the winter training, I love the idea of it being more focused on strength and power building, some limit bouldering, some weightlifting. Those are all kind of Coach Hörst staples of a winter training program. If you have 2 or 3 months that you're not going on any significant performance climbing trips, use the winter to kind of try to take that ceiling of your maximum strength up a notch or two, because that is kind of a limiting factor for everything you build underneath of it in terms of power endurance and even aerobic endurance. Now, getting stronger doesn't give you more endurance, but it gives you more room to build endurance. And so it's influential in creating a higher limit, but you still need to put in the hard work to build the power endurance and the aerobic endurance underneath and to get that up to the next level. And so going forward, now that we're into the heart of spring climbing season, you don't want to abandon your strength training. But I think if you do one session a week that's very targeted on grip strength and kind of limit bouldering, and we don't need to get into the details, but one session a week will maintain what you've earned from that winter block. So you shouldn't see a loss. And so that then opens up the door to if the weather's good, trying to get 2 days a week out at the red on real rock, because that's the money. It's the most fun. It's the most real. You become a cleaner, more efficient mover over stone by being on stone. Plastic is a fine substitute, but there's just so much more nuance on stone that plastic doesn't demand. And so you can feel smooth in the gym and still get to the rock and not be as efficient as you need to be. And that
totally
just comes with putting in the time, the days. Everybody coming out of a winter block indoors suffers their first few times outdoors because they have to kind of get back into that groove of how to move over stone. And of course, each area is kind of unique, that you move a little differently at the red than you do at Smith Rock, let's say. And so each area, you have to make kind of those micro adjustments in your technique and movement skill. So stay with once a week, I would say, with the strength and power training. Try to do it as maintenance. And you can certainly dabble on that one day on your boulder projects. I assume your goal with the V8 is to, well, it'd be great to do it outdoors. You probably don't have the place to do that immediately. So it's more of a maybe kilter board project, right? Or gym project.
All right, y'all, just want to take a quick second here to tell you how I'm staying healthy and taking care of myself as I'm now pushing my body to the hardest limits I've ever pushed it as a rock climber. And the way that I'm fueling these gains that I'm working so hard to get is with PhysiVantage Nutrition. You all know PhysiVantage. They've been a sponsor of the show since the very first episode, and I've been a paying customer of PhysiVantage since long before there was ever a podcast. And why is that, Ryan? Why am I buying PhysiVantage products? Well, it's because they work. They're designed by climbers for climbers to help us climb our best. Every single day, I'm taking their supercharged collagen before I do like a little light fingerboard workout, like the Abrahangs that I've talked about here on this show, or before I go climbing or go to the gym. And I'm also fueling up either before or after a workout with one of their protein powders. It's like my sweet treat that I have. And the most important thing, as I mentioned, is that it works. Most coaches and doctors and dietitians are going to tell you that you should probably take in about 1 gram of protein per body weight every single day if you're an athlete and you're trying to fuel your gains. So for me, 155 grams of protein is a lot of protein in a day. And I love a whole foods diet, but I have to supplement in order to hit that goal. And I do it by using PhysiVantage. Hit that link right there in your show notes and you'll get 15% off pretty much everything over at the PhysiVantage store, or use code STRUGGLE15 at checkout to get that discount, and let's get after it. I just want to take a quick second here to talk about how I'm keeping track of all my training and climbing over the course of days, weeks, months, and years. And I'm using an actual physical analog journal, a paper journal that I'm holding in my hands right now, called the 5-Year Training and Performance Journal. I created this. I've been using something like this for the last 9 years, and it's a reflective journal, meaning I put something in for every single day, and at the end of the year, the next year starts back underneath that first one, so that as you go, you are able to see where you were at 1 year prior, 2 years prior, 3 years prior. You can log your goals at the beginning of every month and see what you checked off. And then the big breakthrough for me is that I'm able to reflect back and see what training interventions are actually working, what are worthwhile, and maybe which ones aren't. And I'm also able to see with a ton of gratitude and joy how much progress I've made. And I've never been able to get that from training apps. I like training apps. They help me to do my training, but this reflective journal has totally changed how I'm able to understand my personal training, my performance, and then everything that I do as a climber, like all my notable routes that I've sent, all my thoughts and dreams, they're all in here. And I get to look back and enjoy that day after day and year after year. And now you can too, because I made it and I'm selling it. And for $40, I think that's probably the cheapest thing you could buy that will last you 5 years as a climber. You can learn more over at thestruggleclimbingshow.com/journal. I do want to take a trip down to Chattanooga to scope some potential projects that then maybe will keep that fire lit for me to keep training hard through the summer, and then maybe have a little boulder goal like an outdoor boulder goal. And there are some boulders, the guys, the crew here in Louisville are like, we're going to take you on a boulder tour around the Red, because there are boulders at the Red. Of course, I always just drive right by them to go tie into a rope. But to your point, yeah, most of my bouldering is indoors at the gym, but I hope to find some outdoor projects to kind of keep that stoke going, and maybe have some outdoor ticks this year. That would be ideal. Though it's hard to convince me to not tie into a rope. If I've cleared a day to get to the Red, I typically want to get out on some routes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Bouldering is kind of a secondary goal for you. It's not the primary goal. You're a route climber first and foremost. And bouldering's fun. It's great for training. It's fun to go to new areas. I mean, chat would be amazing to do a trip there. But, that's a thing that many climbers do during the winter season when it's too cold to be on a route for 10 or 20 minutes. You can still be at a bouldering area with your down coat and your heater and be projecting quite hard at 32 degrees. A lot of people do that. And so you could do a winter trip to chat and not give up a week at the red during prime route climbing season.
Right.
But, again, I think the focus needs to be to get that aerobic endurance back. I mean, the mitochondria, those ATP factories in our muscles are very plastic. They spin up with stimulus, with volume of climbing, and then they start to close their doors and the factory workers go home and stop making ATP when you aren't doing endurance climbing. And so heading into climbing season, and certainly at climbing season at the Red River Gorge, it is as much or more a test of your mitochondrial function, how much ATP you can crank out via the oxidative pathway. It's as much a test of that as it is to being able to do hard moves. In fact, people who are strong boulders but lack endurance, the common experience for them at the Red is they can go bolt to bolt up a route. They can go bolt to bolt up a 13A, but they try to red point it and they're hanging at every third bolt because they just don't have the aerobic endurance to put that all together. And the aerobic endurance is also what allows you to recover on the route and between the route. So there's so many reasons for a route climber to really make that endurance training, that aerobic endurance training, a staple of year-round training. And during the winter, you just did one session a week, kind of maybe trying to maintain the aerobics endurance a bit while you were building your strength and power. Now we're kind of flipping it around. And during the climbing season, you're going to do the one maintenance strength power workout, limit bouldering workout, and then try to have 2 days a week of route climbing outdoors. And then a third day, if you were going to do something at the gym to make a total of 4 days, if you can schedule that, it could be kind of a mix of zone 2 climbing and some bouldering 4x4s or power endurance training or doing 4x4s on a system wall.
Hold on one second, Eric. Sorry. I want to peel back on that just a second. Ferris, what do you need, bud? Ferris is off school today because of the flooding, and so he's on an online class.
I bet he loves that.
Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to be able to plug it in? Okay. I need to help him with one thing on his computer. It'll take me two minutes. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm going to drink my supercharged collagen here.
Yeah, there you go. That's a perfect break.
I'm drinking it out of a Guinness mug. I don't know if everybody can see that. I don't know if that's sacrilege or not. This light pink color is the pomegranate flavor of PhysiVantage Supercharged Collagen. It is not the dark shade of brown coffee shade of Guinness, but I'm getting ready to go and do a workout after this interview or vodcast is done. So I'm sucking down my collagen ahead of time. It's just me and you right now. Any questions? I will have to do my Karnak imitation to read your mind. If Ryan only knew what we're talking about here. Actually, we can talk behind his back now if you want. What do you think about this guy? Movie star turned climber? Really? Is that a thing? Well, I guess Jared Leto. But, he's A-list. Ryan is maybe C-list.
What are you talking about? Wait a minute.
I'm talking behind your back here. Sorry. I dare you to leave in. I dare you.
That was so good. I only caught the tail end of it, but it was so perfect. Oh, so perfectly timed. C-list is generous. See, this is why I keep you around. You're my hype man. You build me up so well. Oh, God, that's so good. Okay.
Hey, I'm going to always take credit for helping launch your podcasting and video career in climbing.
Well, I mean, rightfully so. You like, that is legitimate. I mean, you and I were climbing and I was like, I got this idea about a podcast and you were A, very encouraging, and B, introduced me to like 50% of my first season guests that launched this whole thing. So yes. That is true, and I owe you slices of Miguel's in return.
Oh, more than that, I'm going to ask for bigger payback in the future.
Well, the big money of podcasting.
When you sign your HBO deal for The Struggle, then I'll be co-producer or something.
Yes, the road to HBO, that should be the next season. Is how do we get me on HBO? Well, I think I need to continue to progress as a climber in order to continue to progress as a podcaster. So thank you. Apologies for that. Never a dull moment here with the little kids around. But if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, and I think I am, the goal, kind of the overall goal, schedule permitting, is 4 days of climbing in a week. And right now, as we're into the spring season, 3 of those we want to be essentially route climbing or endurance training. One of them is that maintenance kind of strength and power training. So hopefully I can get out to the red a couple days a week. That is the goal. If not, it's 1 day a week and then a couple days in the gym. I could do we've got a lead gym here. I can get on a lead rope and project some indoor routes. And then that 3rd day, I was thinking kind of zone 2 maintenance on like the tread wall, but you were saying maybe do a little bit more of the power, some 4x4s or like the 30 on 30 off type. You like a little bit of heavier.
And you can do that on the tread wall. Yeah, you can do it on the tread wall. So do you have the tread wall up and running at home now?
No, it's in pieces, but it should be up in the next, I don't know, a few weeks here for the listener. And I haven't shared this yet, but this will be a good opportunity for people to know. I found a tread wall on Marketplace. I've been looking for years for a tread wall, and they're quite expensive. It's out of the budget to get one new for me, but I found one come up in Marketplace, borrowed a buddy's truck, went and picked it up. It's in great condition. The former owners kept it in their garage. They were CrossFit people. They didn't use it hardly at all. And
nice.
Now it's in pieces, but I'm going to be putting it together. So I will be able to start doing that training at home like I know you're able to do. And that will be a difference maker for me just with regard to drive time and all of that. To be able to just go and put in sessions in the garage will be so cool. It's not there yet, but one of the gyms has one that I go to, Rock Sport, and I can put in some laps on that until I get mine up and running. And so I could definitely do that 1 day a week. And do you think we're into 30-30 territory here?
Yeah, I was just going to say, 30-30s are a great go-to protocol. It's, for the listeners who aren't familiar with it, it's a protocol that I developed and have really popularized and used with a lot of pro climbers with great effect in terms of the beauty of it being it's 30 seconds of all-out climbing. You can do it on a spray wall, certainly, but the tread wall is just beautiful. It's like a runner doing intervals on a track. You just have this platform that you focus on and climb. But in any case, you grab the smallest holds and pull the hardest you can. You're not trying to do crazy body positions and technical movements. It's more about putting power into the wall and climbing hard. And so you go 30 seconds all out. I use my iPhone timer so that everything's punctual. It's 30 seconds, and then you're off the wall for 30 seconds. And that off the wall 30 seconds, don't sit down. You want to be up, moving around. That helps recovery. A little bit of chalk, of course. And then when the buzzer goes off, you're back on for the next 30 seconds. And you do that 6 times. So do the math. That's a total of 3 minutes of climbing and 3 minutes of resting. But it's 30 on, 30 off. So your power can stay quite high throughout, although certainly the 4th, 5th, and last interval, your power's waning. So that dictates you grabbing a little bigger holds and maybe not reaching as far or twist locking as hard, but you're still all 6 laps going as hard as you can go. And so it's a very anaerobic for those 30 seconds, but it really, the 30-second break, that limited 30-second break, stimulates the aerobic system. Again, if you're up on your feet, moving around, you keep your heart beating, you're circulating fresh blood into the muscles, you're getting as much oxygen into the climbing muscles to make ATP, and you're circulating out lactate and hydrogen ions from the working muscles into other parts of your body where it can be metabolized and utilized and buffered. And so it trains recovery as much as it trains the power endurance. That's the beauty of the 30-30 protocol. And for route climbers, that's so important because you get on a route it's not a crux bottom to top. It's these bursts where you're going anaerobic, and then there's these periods of easier climbing where you're going aerobic, or even getting to a rest, which is when the aerobic energy system does its thing to replenish that finite anaerobic reserve. And so long story short, it's not a protocol you want to do every day. Just like limit bouldering, you wouldn't want to do every day. It's a unique stress that you can do one of those a week as part of this larger program. And so I think it's perfect for you. And it really is very beneficial for rock climbers to do those 30-30 intervals, one session a week. In a pure training block, if you want to focus on something specific relating to power endurance or aerobic development, you could do 2 of those sessions a week. But now that we're in season and the goal is to get on real rock twice a week, then that extra day in the gym of climbing, while you could do another zone 2 session, you could also instead do the 30-30 intervals. And by the way, you don't just do one set of 6. You do the one set of 6, and then you take an extended rest, typically 10 to 15 minutes. I like to go 15 to get pretty complete recovery. And then you do another set of 6. And initially, I have people do 3 sets of 6. A lot of the pro climbers I work with, and what I do is I actually do a 4th set. So it gets to be a pretty long workout. But again, the more trained you are, if you're a 515 climber, very highly trained athlete, volume is part of what they need to develop the capacity to perform in just those severe situations that 515s or whatever person's limit is. So you could do eventually up to 4 of those 6 interval sets. But it's rigorous. And so like if you were just at the red a day or 2 earlier climbing at your limit, then it might not be the best thing. You might be better off just doing a zone 2 session. So that's part of your weekly programming, is kind of on the fly. You'll have to make some decisions based on if you were out on the rock 2 days, were they both days focused on climbing 12 plus? Or were they days with a lot of submaximal climbing, where you're out with somebody that you were climbing lots of 10s and 11s at the red? That's a very different stimulus and has different recovery requirements than if you went there for a day, warmed up, and then took like 4 goes on Tuna Town, which would wreck you. You would be really feeling that for the next 2 days. So you don't want to follow that with a 30-30 workout. You probably want to follow that with one of those submaximal zone 2 climbing sessions that has a recovery, kind of a therapeutic effect if you do it right, if you hit the intensity right.
All right, y'all, just want to take a quick second here to tell you about some Voodoo Magic Chalk that I've tried out recently. It's by Rungy. You guys know Rungy. It's Magnus Mitbo's company. They've been supporting this show for a really long time now, which I love. Thank you, Rungy. But this chalk that they just came out with, I don't even know if you can call it chalk. It's called Mag Lock, and it's like chalk. It's a super expensive type of chalk for a bag of it, but you only use a teaspoon. And it goes on your clean hands, and you rub it around on your clean hands, and that's kind of like your magic little base layer. I tested this stuff out with Emil Abrahamson when we were out in Portland shooting some videos together. And we did like a side-by-side test hanging from a giant, nasty sloper in the gym. And by far, when we put the Mag Lock on first and then used like regular mag dust afterwards, we hung way longer than when we were just using regular chalk. So like if you've got a project and you're like, look, I need that extra little edge to level up and send this thing, check out the Mag Lock. It's just wild how it feels and how it works. I don't need to sell it. Just try it and you'll see the difference. You can use code STRUGGLE and get 10% off pretty much everything over at Rungy. You can get a bundle, which will score you some free shipping. And again, if you use that code STRUGGLE over at rungy.com, that also helps me to continue to make these shows that you're listening to. Yeah, well, that's great nuance there to keep in mind, which is essentially if I'm going to be doing 3 kind of quote unquote route climbing days, whether they're indoors or outdoors, 2 of them are going to be more on the aerobic side where I'm recovering on routes or I'm putting in more submaximal volume, and one of them is going to be that more higher end anaerobic power intensive day, whether that's on a route or doing like 30-30s. I'll just have to figure out kind of what I'm doing and then complement accordingly in the week. Yeah, I like that, Eric. Well, thanks. I mean, that's really simple, I think, for me, and I'm sure for a lot of listeners to understand. If you're a route climber like me and you're getting into the next few months here of focusing on that, one strength and power maintenance session a week will keep the gains that you've built over the winter. And then 3 of those days focus on your projects. Again, whether you're an indoor climber or an outdoor climber, that'll be the main focus. One of those being that harder hitting kind of 30-30 anaerobic type. Again, whether it's on routes, 4x4s, a spray wall, or a tread wall, that's really easy for me to program. I appreciate that. And you mentioned there kind of like the days outside. So let's say I can get 1 or 2 days outside. So maybe 5 or 6 days a month, maybe 7 or 8 days a month if I'm getting really lucky with the schedule and the kids and the work and all that stuff and the weather windows. Do you feel just using 2 days a week as kind of the baseline, if I'm able to get 2 days a week, do you think one, I should focus on 12 plus and one building out lower, trying to do flashes or second goes, or can both of them be projecting days? If I'm really psyched on Tuna Town or I'm really psyched on Belly of the Beast, how would you program 2 days outside for me?
Yeah, well, it comes down to a logistical thing. I think just like what routes are available, the weather conditions dictate whether you can be in the sun or not. It's getting to be that time of year that like being on staying in the sun would be pretty tough on you. Whereas Belly and the Beast is a shaded route pretty much all day, I think. Right. And you could go there on a warmer day. And so weather is going to dictate some of that, and also your partner and what you need to accommodate them equally as well. But you could go to, a place like the Undertow Wall, for example. There's a few excellent 12A and Bs. You could go there and go for a flash go on something or try to go a route like 808. And then at the end of the session, put in a burn or 2 on Tuna Town and begin to learn that route. Again, you're not quite ready to do that in a session because it's a long, rigorous route with kind of a pumpy crux at the top. Not a brutally hard crux, but it's just like you have to grab some smaller holes when you're really pumped. Kind of like the end of the Force, where it's, the moves themselves might only be 11 plus, but you're pumped and they feel a lot harder. And that's kind of how the very ending of Tuna Town is. So it gets to be about doing the first half of the route and trying to be as aerobic as possible to save that anaerobic reserve for the end and knowing where to rest and how to be efficient with your movement. And so I think Tuna Town takes you probably a few sessions to do, but I think you could do it quickly. And so you can, in the same day, do a 12A or a B, hopefully send it quickly, and then finish up with a couple burns on Tuna Town to end the day before you drive home. And that would work great. Or if you have 2 good days, you're going out Monday and Thursday to the red. One day could be more of a projecting 12 plus, 12 CD kind of routes, trying to take down Stain or Belly of the Beast or some other similar route. And then the other day you could go and be climbing. Well, we still have that 12A on site that you need to add to your resume, correct? That could be something. I have a couple routes in mind that we've discussed in the past that I still think are good targets for that. And of course, whenever you're trying to do your first of something, people are kind of looking for the low-hanging fruit. Now, you did not do that with the Force. So to your credit, you did not go for the low-hanging fruit. So kudos for that. But for me, you're trying to do your first of something, you often look for the low-hanging fruit. And so like Crumbly's, which is right next to Belly of the Beast, is super soft 12A. And I forget the name of the route at the beer trailer left. I've mentioned it to you before. That is also...
I did that. I did not manage the flash on that one. I got it. It took me 3 goes. Sluts are cool. If that's the one you were talking about. It could be. It's like the furthest right. Like when you go beer trailer left, it's like the furthest one on the right. And there's some business down low. You have to fight through a few things down low, and then you just kind of hang on to some big moves on 511 territory. There's a lot of routes out there to your point, and I'm going to have an opportunity. I'm going to be going to Roadside this weekend. Of course, this episode will come out after I go climb there, but there's Kraken and Pine, and might even scope out Wild Gift, which is a 12C over there. So yeah, there's no shortage. I mean, one of the benefits of me coming to the red only 7 years ago, mostly climbing out west prior to that, is that I'm not anywhere near using up all of the classic routes. I've got loads of time to get on great routes. So it's it's like kind of an embarrassment of options.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the Red River Gorge is there's few climbing areas in the world. Probably you can count on one hand the areas that have such a wealth of classic routes between 11A and 13B, which is that's kind of where you're at right now in terms of wanting
more
to go
coming
climbing.
with the land acquisitions. And you've been out bolting recently, you and John. I mean, there's just more routes than we can handle.
Yeah, it's wonderful. There's the new crags at Cliffview that were gifted to the RRGCC. I think they put up 170 routes back in there over the last year, the locals, the RRGCC people. And I think it's all high-end hardware with mussies. It's basically a climbing gym. It was funded by the landowner there. And there's Ash Branch, which is a private area that opened up a year ago right next to Muir Valley that adds another 50 routes, mostly moderates. But my son just put up a 14AB there, a very steep route. Yesterday, I think he did the first ascent of it at Ash Branch. And then there's all the Ashland land that was acquired. Again, it was a group effort of developers, local business people, and the RRGCC that put together a $10 million deal to get a huge parcel, I think 2,000 acres that has already a couple hundred existing routes on it that were kind of put in when it was a private property, kind of under the cover of darkness. That's how climbers are. But now it's legal, and there's a lot of new routes going in. I put up a couple there in the past few weeks, and that has potential for 400 or 500 routes to go in. So yeah, the Red River continues to multiply at probably about the same rate that the number of climbers multiplies coming to the Red. So it's a good thing to spread people out.
Yeah, well, thank you. Just shout out to you.
You may be single-handedly responsible for like bringing all these people to the Red.
No, not at all. Although it does warm my heart when I run into people out there who have been listening or have said, we've been hearing you talk about it. We wanted to come check these routes out. So that's been really nice. But I think you're more responsible than me. But definitely shout out to Ian and all and the RRGCC and those who came together for the land acquisitions and for supporting climbing and making the hardware available to put up all these routes and really appreciate that. I'd like to get out there and bolt some routes myself and perhaps get some first ascents like you and your son Jonathan have been so active in doing out here at the Red lately.
Oh, let's do it. I know where I know where the crags are at, and I'll be down there hopefully for a week in May, and then probably not again till the autumn season. But I have first ascents is in my blood. I was a developer here in Pennsylvania back in the 1980s, put up a couple hundred routes in Pennsylvania. Then at the New River Gorge from the late 80s into the 90s, I put up a couple hundred routes, including the first 513 at the New River Gorge, which I'm proud of. And I put up scattered routes out west in Wyoming and Oregon and elsewhere. And so it's fun. And now kind of my adopted home area, the Red, I'm finally having a chance to bolt some routes. And it's hard work. And if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You got to make it safe for everybody and get the bolts in the right spot so you can work routes and take safe falls. And so it's a fun process. And there's a bunch of folks at the Red that do a heck of a job with the route development. And the hardware, thank goodness, is almost all stainless at this point. So it's a lot different than it was when we were bolting 30 years ago with stuff we bought at the hardware store. So
what did they call it? The Porter hangers, where Porter Gerard would take little chunks of like old like mattress frames, bed frames, and
he would cut up little chunks of angle iron. Yeah,
exactly. But now with the stainless glue-ins and the mussies and all that, it's just really wonderful. Well, thank you for putting in the time there. I would love to develop a route with you. We'll find a time, if not this summer, then maybe in the fall to scope out some lines.
You can start working on your struggle route names.
I know it.
You could put up a route called the Struggle Bus or whatever.
The first route, as long as it's a C grade, I'm going to call it C list, because now that I know that I'm a C list.
Oh, there actor,
you go. Put up an 11C called the C list. Well, Eric, this has just been awesome. And as we wrap up here, because I'm going to focus on my pyramid, I'm going to focus on my very simple training that you've laid out. I don't think there's any mysteries here that that I've got going for the next few months. I'm curious for you, you're about to head off to Greece, which is really exciting. Is this the first time you've been out there?
Correct. I've done numerous trips to Europe over the years, but I've never climbed in Greece. And everybody's been telling my wife and I, you got to go to Klimnos. And so my wife really compelled it because she's looking for one of those climbing vacations that's kind of at a beach or tropical location more than 10,000 feet in Wyoming or something.
Right.
And which we love, but it's a different situation when you're climbing on a beach in Thailand or Vietnam or in Greece or elsewhere. So this trip is just going to be fun. And I try not to get hung up on the numbers so much, but that's part of climbing. A lot of climbers do. You focus on that. You like to stretch and reach for the next level. But if you are constantly thinking that way, it tends to eventually backfire on you and make you miserable. And so that's why, again, I earlier mentioned, I think it's good that you're out doing a variety of things. And climbing is as much about experience and visiting new areas and climbing with new people and learning from those people and the cultures and exchanging information. I mean, when I run into people at the crag, of course, I'm recognized, and it quickly devolves into a training Q&A, which is fine. I love it. And so I enjoy that, and I find that as gratifying as tying in on Red Point goes on my project, which of course I want to send them, but also just want to enjoy climbing while I can still climb at a pretty decent level. So I had a blast with you at Torrent that day. Your psych's always high. That rubs off on me. So I appreciate that.
Well, it's always so fun to tie in with you, Eric. And I will point the listeners to a recent episode of your Training for Climbing podcast that you did about the art of the second go send. And I've actually listened to that twice because it's just every time I climb with you, it just blows my mind how you're able to, well, when we were out at Torrent, you flashed around, sighted everything. But we've been out other days where you'll take quite a bit of time to bolt what looks to me like a very improbable route to send on essentially a first real attempt, a second go. And then you'll put it together, and it's like just such a cool culmination of your skills, but also the fitness that you bring into it, your way to read a route. And I imagine you'll be doing quite a bit of that in Klimnos as well. And so anyway, for those who are listening, check out that episode from Eric. And I'm going to try to harness some of that this spring here and put down some quick sends, and maybe not go for flashes all the time, but go for second goes and hopefully build out that pyramid in a good way. And then you and I can connect this summer as we prepare for the fall season and talk about where I'm at and maybe what I should be focusing on for fall projects.
That sounds great. I appreciate the kind words about the podcast. I've been doing these podcasts for, coming up on 12 or 13 years. And I enjoy it as part of my legacy as a climbing coach. I've been doing this type of stuff for 3 decades or more. So I'm glad I'm still doing it and having a bit of an impact. So thanks, Ryan.
Well, thank you. Have fun. Try to unplug a little bit in Klimnos. And I appreciate you checking in on me here with the Road to the Pyramid. I'll see you when you're back in town. Maybe we can tie in May when you're back.
Sounds good. Let's do it and give our best to the family.
All right, that wraps up that great chat there with Coach Eric Hörst. Eric, thank you for your time. Have fun in Greece. I've already seen a couple pictures. As I'm recording this, he just arrived in Klimnos, and man, that looks like such a rad place. Somebody send me money so I can go to Klimnos. Oh, I'll tell you how you can send me money in just a minute if you become like a patron of the show. But first, before I ask you to help fund my climbing trip to Klimnos, let me give you a little bit of an update on what's been going on with my climbing since Eric and I recorded this episode a little over a week ago. I managed to get out to the Red twice, which is awesome. I think, as Eric mentioned, like for me, where my goals are predominantly outdoor rock climbing, there's just no substitute for being outdoors climbing on rock. And so one of the biggest hurdles for somebody like myself, where I'm a weekend warrior, I've got kids, I've got a job, I've got this podcast, just getting outside can be the crux. So I'm very happy to report that I've managed to get outside twice in the past week, once with my daughter in tow and a climbing friend and his daughter, which is always fun. You never get as much done, but it's just like so great and just brings me so much joy. And also my daughter crushed, which was always fun and motivating to see. And then once just with some friends, which is a different kind of fun. And, you know, you can really lock in. But in both of those trips, I tried some hard things and I didn't send them, but I felt better on them than I thought I would. And I think this gets back to Eric's comment earlier, which is like, hey, like, don't be so hard on yourself. You're putting in the work, the fitness is building, and it's going to pay off. I had a different friend message me not too long ago, some quote, "The trophy is earned in practice. You just pick it up at the game." Well, there's no real game here. And I mean, I'm not a competition climber, but anyway, I like the sentiment, right? If we put in the work, then we're going to pick up those sends in due time. And when I went out with my daughter, I got on a really nails hard, punchy, powerful 12C called Wild Gift. And every move felt very, very hard on my first like bolt to bolt. Fortunately, there was a guy there that sprayed me down. Otherwise, I think I would have been flailing around on that route for maybe weeks, but got some really helpful beta on that and ended up linking. Did I post a video? Oh, I didn't, because my daughter's face was like in the image the whole time. I set up the camera and then my daughter used the phone as like a mirror. So anyway, no video, but I think it's like 6 bolts and I went ground through the 4th. It's going to take some work, I think. Like, I'm not confident that the next session it'll go, but I think within a couple sessions it could come together. Very powerful kind of bouldery style route. And then I got out just yesterday as I'm recording this with some friends to the drive-by crag and got on what is probably the shortest 513, or maybe it's a 12D. I think most people give it a 513, a 13A at the Red called Maisie May. You've probably heard me and Eric talk about this one when we were initially shopping for 13A projects. And this one didn't inspire me the way the Force did or other more classic Red River Gorge routes did, because it's kind of like a boulder problem on a rope. But I got on it because my friend was working on the longer version of it. And I was very surprised that on my second go, I almost stuck the crux move, which if you stick the crux move, it's over. Like, it's 3 bolts, right? So it's basically, it could be, if you put down pads, it could be a high ball. But anyway, I don't know. It's one of those things where it could take me 2 more tries or it could take me 30 more tries, because I think it's a little bit of a low percentage move for me. But there may be ways to kind of nuance it and dial it in. In any case, I just was incredibly excited to see that all of this boulder training that I've been doing, now I'm crossing my roads. There's the road to V8 and the road to the pyramid, but I've been doing a lot of bouldering, and this is basically a boulder on a rope. And what seemed like it would be very, very impossible for me to do, or improbable for me to do a year ago, I pulled on and flashed the first half of it, which is, you know, probably a V4 boulder problem in and of itself. And then the next move is like kind of the hardest. And I don't know, maybe it goes like V6 or thereabouts, V6 plus. I'm not quite sure. Not much of a boulderer, but in any case, I just felt good. And so in this conversation with Eric, you probably heard a little bit of like, I don't know, discouragement in my voice, because I just wasn't feeling like I was getting out there and crushing the way I wanted to be crushing in April. But I'm laying the groundwork, and now I'm feeling more optimistic, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm feeling more optimistic, having gotten outside a couple days, had fun, tried hard, and actually have seen like the fruits of my training labors paying off on rock. And so no big sends to report, but I feel like over the next month, if I can get back on some of these projects, maybe a few of them, maybe more than a few of them could come together. And that's what I'm trying to learn on this road to the pyramid, is that it takes some time to backfill and build that skill work and that toolkit and that fitness. But once it's there, then some of these climbs should go maybe faster than I think they will go, which will be a really cool feeling. I'm not there yet, but I'm hopeful that I'll be there soon. And so anyway, the psych has returned, and now I've got some mini projects out there in the 12C, 12D, maybe even 13A range. And then, of course, the lower 12s I'm still working on, trying to send in short order. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm putting Eric's plan that he put forward in this conversation to good use. I'm focusing on 3 route climbing fitness days a week, hopefully 2 outside, and then 1 to complement that, plus one bouldering day a week. And that is plenty of volume for this guy. I need a lot of recovery these days. But so far, I've been able to manage that. I'm feeling hyped. I hope you are too. And if you want to hear more about what I'm specifically doing with my training, like very kind of nuanced, nerdy, what's happening each week and all of that, I do a monthly plog, my podcast log, where I just talk through my training and my nutrition and my tactics and what I'm working on and all of that. And I make that available only for Patreon members, but there is a free tier. So you can sign up for the free tier of Patreon, still get those plog episodes. You won't get anything else. Well, I do send some other things out for Patreon members on the free tier occasionally, but you could also, for a few bucks a month, sign up and be like a paying member of Patreon. And then you get the bonus episodes, you get ad-free and extended episodes, you get priority questions for guests and all sorts of cool other things. So either way, you can do the free trial, you can do the free tier, or you can be a paid member. Just pop over to patreon.com/The Struggle Climbing Show to check that out. And I'll do another plug episode at the end of the month here to talk exactly through my training routine. And I hope you're just having an awesome day, an awesome week, getting after it in the gym and out at the crag. And if you've got any thoughts or questions for me, feel free to hit me up. I'd love to hear from you. Big thanks and appreciation to all of our show sponsors who have brought you this episode here at zero cost. Way to go. You can check your show notes for links and special discounts from those guys that are only available to Struggle listeners. And there's some great discounts there, so check them all out. Actually, you can see all of the show's brand sponsors and special deals by popping over to thestruggleclimbingshow.com/deals. Hey, did you know that The Struggle is carbon neutral in partnership with the Honnold Foundation? Well, you do now, and it feels pretty good for me to write that check every month. They're doing such amazing work to bring clean energy to communities around the world. Y'all can get inspired and learn more about their amazing work over at honnoldfoundation.org, and toss them some love if you can. They're doing awesome stuff. And lastly, The Struggle is a proud member of the Plugtone Audio Collective, a diverse group of the best, most impactful podcasts in the outdoor industry. The show is produced and hosted by me, Ryan Devlin, and edited by the wonderful Glen Walker. All right, that clips the anchors on this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting the show. If you want to do something that helps me out for zero cost, you could rate and review the show wherever you listen, or just share this with one of your climbing friends or the gym that you climb at. It really helps to get the word out there. I appreciate it. I hope your training and climbing are going great, and if you are struggling like me, well, just remember the struggle makes us stronger.